All right, let's go ahead and open our Bibles back to Leviticus 10. I'm just going to look at one verse here to finish up the entire book of Leviticus. What we have from chapter 11 through the end of the book, 27, is what you would typically think of the book of Leviticus. It's just all the rules, literally rules, but laws, which God gave to Moses from within the tabernacle. The laws about, what each sacrifice, in more detail on all the sacrifices, what the rules for living would be, to go out and how you interact with other people in your own family, parents, children to parents, siblings, just all the rules that we think of that the Israelites were expected to follow. That's what we find in the rest of the book. And you can all read that on your own. There is, I don't want to say there's not much significant stuff in there, but for our purposes, it's just rules. Which is like the genealogies. Like they have a purpose, but you could study that another time. But I wanted to go back to I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this story, which we ended with last week. But to me, this kind of summarizes like the whole point behind all of this whole book and the law itself. So that's Leviticus 10, and it was verse 3. Remember, we talked about the two sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu. And it says that they offered strange fire. And the Bible isn't clear what the strange fire was, but it is clear, to me anyways, it is clear on why it was not acceptable. And that's what it says in verse 3. Now, it doesn't say this is why it wasn't acceptable, but by saying they were judged, harshly for what they did, and saying, God reinforcing, this is what I expect. That tells us, to me anyways, why he would say, of all things, this is what I expect after they were judged. It means they didn't do what he expected. So when we see what he expects, we know it doesn't matter what exactly they did. We know it wasn't what he expected. So what is it that he expects? Verse 3. Moses says, Aaron, this is it that the Lord spake, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me, and before all the people I will be glorified. So whatever they did, it didn't sanctify God. It didn't stand him out above any other God. And it didn't, it says, I will be glorified. It didn't glorify him. So it glorified somebody or someone else. Could have been them, could have been somebody else. And what I think when I read the rest of the book, all these things that God puts in there, we can focus on the little details, but a lot of them don't really apply to us, like stoning your kids, right? Or the disobedient child, and that's not going to happen. But the principle behind all of it, is that God has standards, and in order to glorify him, we follow those standards. It may not be the standards in the book of Leviticus. That gives us a good understanding, an overall picture of what God expects, but we don't need to, in Leviticus anyway, we don't need to focus on those details. We need to focus on God does have an expectation. All right? Now, we are responsible to figure out what that expectation is, and he's not going to judge us like he judged Israel when we don't obey those expectations. We will suffer. There will be consequences when we disobey and we don't live up to his standards, whether that's broken fellowship, whether it's lasting consequences in generations to come. But the whole reason that God gives it to us is because he wants us to know that he's holy, that he's above everything else, and that for us to properly give him honorable worship, there is a standard. There is some standard that he expects. It's not my way. It's not whatever I can offer him. It's not whatever is available at the time. I mean, maybe it is available at the time. Maybe I'm on happen to go on vacation on a Friday night or whatever, and because I wear a suit to suit to church every day. I go and I intend to be back on a Saturday night, so I don't take church clothes with me. right? So what do I wear? And then my flight gets delayed and I didn't leave till Monday. Now I have to go somewhere to church on Sunday. Is God going to punish me for wearing jeans? And like my brother here last week. Did you see him? He had.
This is being recorded, you know.
Yeah, he's welcome to it. He knows what I think. No, God, you know what? Whatever's available, what your best is, that I understand. You know, but we have to know God does expect something of us, which whatever we can offer Him is our best, and that's what He wants. And that's not what Nadab and Abihu offered him. And somebody else was glorified. Something else was glorified through whatever they did. But it wasn't God. And that they suffered because of it. And they were made an example out of it. Okay, let's go to up to Numbers chapter 1. Actually, you know what? We're going to skip. Let's just read verse 1 of Numbers 1, because this is kind of not chronological the way that it's given here. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of the congregation on the first day of the second month in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt. So they're still in Sinai. This is 1 year later, 1 year and 1 month, the first day of the second month. So a year and a full month since they left Egypt. And during that time, most of the book of Numbers happened. The building of the tabernacle, the law being given. All right. But when we get to, I think you could turn to chapter 11, I think. It might be 10 or 11. What was it? Chapter 10 and verse 12. So 10 chapters later. Verse 11, chapter 10, verse 11. And it came to pass on the 20th day of the second month in the second year that the cloud was taken up from off the tabernacle. So 10 chapters later, we're 15 days before verse 1 of chapter 1. All right, so it's out of order. So we can't piece together exactly where everything happened. Because, it could be that those Leviticus, the last chapters of Leviticus happened during when the book of Numbers was written. Because it says God, when the tabernacle was finished, God came down and rested there, and Moses came in and God talked to him there. That's talked about in Numbers. So this, what happens in Leviticus, is probably actually happening in the book of Numbers. So it's a little bit, we're going to look at it a little bit out of order. So go to chapter 7, and we're going to start there. I think that maybe that's what it says right here. Maybe not. Well, we'll start at verse 1. This wasn't the verse I was thinking of where it says that God came and finally met with him. I think it's later on. But it does happen here. And it came to pass on the day that Moses had fully set up the tabernacle and had anointed it and sanctified it and all the instruments thereof, both the altar and all the vessels thereof, and had anointed them and sanctified them, that the princes of Israel, heads of the house of their fathers, who were the princes of the tribes who were over them, that were numbered, offered. And it goes on to describe what they offered. But there was 12 tribes of Israel. Each of them had one prince. Okay, and this is what was set up. I can't remember. I think God set that up, because I know Moses' father-in-law, he had set something up previously about how to judge the people and all that. But this separation, I think God told him what to do. They had a prince set up over them, and the prince brought the sacrifices representing the entire family, or the son of Jacob. That's distracting. Yeah. I don't know why. I know what it's like now. So each family or each tribe brought all the exact same offerings, which were the offerings that God had given. But this is like in the initial, let's say, sanctification of the temple or the tabernacle. They each brought the same thing. Pause, but the topic, because we're actually moving on to a new topic here when we're talking about the names and the characters of God. And this is, he is the gracious giver. So we're going to look at the things that God gave to Israel. And I intentionally am dividing the lesson in two because the second part of the lesson is like the negative part of the lesson. And it seems like the last few months, maybe, we've looked at, there's a negative in every one of them. But for the beginning of Numbers that we're going to be looking at, it's positive because it's about God giving Israel the blessings on them, his grace on them. So we're starting with chapter 7, and we're actually going to look through chapter 7 through 10. Which we read one verse out of already. And then we're going to go back and look at chapters 1 through 6. But we're just going to kind of summarize each of them and give us kind of the point of them. But we're starting at 7 because this kind of seems like it's more chronologically where we start. So after the tabernacle is completed, we see that the tribes, the princes of the tribes, bring their sacrifices to the tabernacle to be offered, but it was what God commanded. So you look at verses 12 through 17. It says the same thing after all 12 tribes, but it tells you who brought it, who was in charge of bringing it, what tribe he was from, and it tells you what he was brought. Okay? So each of the 12 times, it tells you the exact same thing what was brought. So we're just going to read one of them. Start at verse 12. And he that offered his offering for the first day was Nahshon, the son of Amminadab of the tribe of Judah. All right, so the first day was the tribe of Judah. Why was that, you suppose? Judah?
Jesus.
Oh, the tribe of Judah, yeah. The lineage of Judah. Look what he brought. And his offering was 1 silver charger. The weight thereof was 130 shekels. 1 silver bowl of 70 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. Both of them were full of fine flour, mingled with oil for a meat offering. 1 spoon of 10 shekels of gold, full of incense. 1 young bullock, 1 ram, 1 lamb of the first year for a burnt offering. 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and for a sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 lambs of the first year. This was the offering of Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. And it's not, I said it repeats it over and over again for each one of them. It's not coincidental that they all brought the same thing. They all brought the same thing because that's what they were supposed to bring. So we come to, after all 12 of them go up to verse 84, this was the dedication of the altar in the day when it was anointed by the princes of Israel. 12 chargers of silver, so each tribe brought 1. 12 silver bowls, 12 spoons of gold, each charger of silver weighing 130 shekels, each bowl 70. All the silver vessels weighed 2,400 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. The golden spoons were 12, full of incense, weighing 10 shekels apiece after the shekel of the sanctuary. All the gold of the spoons was 120 shekels. All the oxen for the burnt offering were 12 bullocks, and rams 12, the lambs of the first year 12, with their meat offering, and the kids of the goats for sin offering 12. And all the oxen for the sacrifice of the peace offerings were 20, and 4 bullocks, rams 60, and he-goats 60, the lambs of the first year 60. This was the dedication of the altar. After that it was anointed. So that's a lot of animals. So we have 60 of the lambs, 60 of the he-goats, and 60 of the rams. So I don't think they sacrificed all those in one day. I think those were a sacrifice that went on. Maybe they sacrificed all those animals in one day. I don't know. That's a lot. Or maybe they were, I don't know if it's clear, were they kept by the Levites and bred, and then they had more sacrifices available? I don't know. But every tribe committed willingly. I don't know how large. Later on, well, actually, back in the beginning of the book, I say later on, they do a census of the tribes, and to count how many available warriors, men, there is, and most of the tribes are like 40,000 men. So, however many people that was overall, just the men of fighting ages, 40,000, and among them they could come up with 1 ram, right, or was what? One oxen or 2 oxen of each tribe. All right, so there was a lot of people, and then they rounded up these animals from this many people. I'm sure they had shepherds and people who did this job that was. They found the best that they could in the whole tribe, and that's the animal that they brought. But it was willingly. Yeah, okay, so it's verse 89 is the verse I was thinking of. And when Moses was gone in the tabernacle of the congregation to speak with him, then he heard the voice of one speaking unto him from off the mercy seat that was upon the ark of the testimony from between the cherubims, and he spake unto him. So that's where Moses was He wasn't up on Sinai when God told him all these things. He was there in the tabernacle that had just been erected, all right? And the Spirit of God rested on it, and God spoke to Moses from on top of the mercy seat. That's where Moses was. So if our theme is God's graciousness on Israel, what do we learn from chapter 7? As we talk about all the sacrifices that were brought. Okay, I understand. It took a lot of gold and silver and precious things, right, to build the tabernacle that they all gave. After it was built, they continued to give. A golden spoon, the silver bowls, shekels and shekels of silver. I don't know how much a shekel is, but it's a weight, I guess. I don't think it's a value, it's a weight. But they had a lot of stuff. And this is a year after they left Egypt. Did they raid other places? Did they have mines where they had a lot of things that God had given to them? Why did they have all this? Well, yes, God was blessing them, but God was also giving them what they needed to worship him. So God is gracious in that. He gives us the ability and the means to give back to him what he wants from us. Chapter 8 is the dedication of the Levites, which we already kind of covered back in Leviticus. All right, and basically the same thing is said here. I don't know that it was given or done a second time. I think it's just a restatement of what had happened in Leviticus. But let's look at what he says here, verse 9. And thou shalt bring, chapter 8, verse 9, and thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation. Thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together. Thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. And Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering of the children of Israel, that they may execute the service of the Lord. Does that remind you of anything? Just verse 10. Focus on verse 10. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. I think it was all the sacrifices. The priest came and put his hands on it first. But the scapegoat, yeah, he put his hands on it and then released it. But it says, and I can't remember which of the sacrifice it was, he put his hands on it and he leaned on it. The priest would do. So now we have, 2 million people come to the Levites and everyone puts their hands. Maybe everyone picked the Levites, and I don't know how they worked it out. Or maybe they everybody patted them on the way by and they filed through, something like that. I don't know what happened. But figuratively, it's picturing something for us. When they put their hands on the Levites. That's how, if you've been to a church that does maybe we've done it at our church when people leave our church. Maybe we'll have the deacons or something put their hands on them. Does that do anything for a person? Or is it symbolic? I think it's symbolic. And I think that's what is being symbolized here when the people are putting their hands on the Levites. Well, the Levites, they are the ones in charge of what I'm responsible for. I commit to the Levites that they offer sacrifices for me, that they have the authority, that they've been given by God. It's part of their sanctification, or part of their, what is the word? Dedication, yeah. Or commence, I want to say commencement. Consecration, that was the word, yeah. They're being consecrated. Look at verse 17. Oh, of course, but I like also verse 11. It says, and Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord for an offering. All right, so separate their shoulders, separate their... Not that kind of sacrifice. He's not that kind of offering. This is a living offering. But it's the same thing. Did God care about the animals being killed and slaughtered, and the blood and the kidneys going this way and the shoulders going that way? God didn't care about all that stuff. He wanted the commitment. He wanted the consecration. The Levites didn't have to be sacrificed, but they were committed just the same. Verse 17. For all the firstborn of the children of Israel are... Okay. I think we skipped some verses, so I wanted to... He's talking about the Levites replacing the firstborn of the Israelites, of each firstborn. So for all the firstborn of the children of Israel are mine, both man and beast. On the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified them for myself. And I have taken the Levites for all the firstborn of the children of Israel. So he's taken the Levites in place of the firstborns. What is the significance of the firstborns? Because God says in the first verse we read, all the firstborns belong to him. Whether it's an animal or a person, they're his. First of all, what's significant about the firstborns? I mean,
Talk about Egypt when we killed the
okay,
firstborn of Egypt.
that's good. It was the firstborns when they left Egypt that God brought his judgment on. All of them, animals, Egyptians, Israelites. The judgment was on all of them, but he spared, all right, some of them, the ones who had the... What does that tell us about those that were spared? They still belong to God. All the others he did with what he said he would do. They belong to God also, but he took them. These ones that remain, the firstborns, yes, those that were there, I mean, maybe over 100 years, no, 1 year, maybe some of the original ones had died. Maybe more had come along. But God says, I claim the firstborns. Well, the firstborn, when we're talking about... maybe not so much today, maybe it is today, inheritances, you know that. The firstborn, let's just talk about the Bible times. The firstborns in the Bible times, they got everything, right? They were the highest regarded of the children. I don't want to say that's the case today, but when we're talking about like the kings of England, the line of succession goes through the firstborn, right? The firstborn male, not the first, unless there is no male, there's the firstborn female. But the firstborn has priority. When God says the firstborns belong to him, what is he saying? Why is the firstborn... Huh?
Set apart or something.
Yeah, they are. But why is the firstborn so important to God?
I have a feeling, I don't know, I haven't studied to find out, but it seems like when a couple has their firstborn, even though that, I mean, it's an exciting thing for them, and that baby is special. And so it's like God saying, I want your most special thing. And he says, I want the firstborn. Even though after you have 10 kids, each one is special.
Okay.
That firstborn.
Think about Hannah, right?
Yeah.
My firstborn, and I'm going to give him to you. I think about we don't want to talk about sacrificing kids. But the Bible also talks about sacrificing plants and things, right? I have a garden, and when I have my first red tomato that comes on, I was like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to give it to my favorite person. And then the whole season goes by. It was the only tomato I got. And I didn't get to enjoy it. The first one may be the last one. You don't know. Did Hannah know if she was going to have more kids? The firstborn is the most important one because it might be the only one. For us to give our first to God, what does that tell us? For him to demand or expect the first, that's why it's important. That's why the first is important, because you don't know if you got another one. If I had, you said that for the next, you might have 10 more kids. They're not as important as first. What if you don't have 10 more kids? You gave your only kid. You don't know that, do you? I don't know if my tomato is going to be the only one, or I hope maybe the gopher kind of what the gopher does, come along and take the plants, and now I have to wait till next year. So yeah, the firstborn, it is the most important, because for you to give your firstborn or your first fruit, whatever it is, to God, that tells him and everyone around you, the rest of the assembly, that you know what? I know it's the only one God gave me, and I'm giving it to him, trusting that he's going to give me more, and I won't be stuck. Or if he doesn't, I'm still trusting in him to give him the first one. So that's the dedication of the Levites. The Levites representing the firstborn of Israel, who God still owns, all right, and claims and sanctifies. But the Levites he takes instead of, that's what he said in verse 18. I've taken the Levites for all the firstborn of the children of Israel, or instead of the firstborn of Israel. Well, not instead. He still has them, but he's using the Levites instead of taking the best and the first and the most important of everybody else. So it's his firstborn. It's symbolic, yes. We don't have time. Yeah, we don't have time to look at the significance of firstborns also. I have here to go to Hebrews 12:23. If you want to write it down, Colossians 1:15 and Colossians 1:18. Because it talks about Christ being the firstborn, and also the church being in Colossians, I think it is. Paul talks about the church being the church of the firstborn. Chapter 9. I'll spend a whole lot of time in chapter 9. It's about the first Passover, or would be the second Passover, I guess. Look at verse 1 through 5. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season. In the 14th day of this month, at even, he shall keep it in his appointed season, according to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof shall ye keep it. Moses spake to the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover, and they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, at even in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So did the children of Israel. I think that this was done after the tabernacle was completed. They, let's say, celebrated the official first Passover. When the original Passover, they didn't celebrate because it was the original. But the first, or let's say the anniversary of the Passover, is what they celebrated on the 15th day, or 14th day of the first month of the second year after they came out of Egypt. And then in look at verse 15, chapter 9. And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, namely the tent of the testimony, and at even there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, the appearance of fire until the morning. So it was always, the cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. I've always heard the way it's worded here to me doesn't sound like it was a pillar of fire. It says at nighttime it looked like fire. To me, it sounds like it was still a cloud, but they saw it as, because you can't, I know it's hard to see a cloud at nighttime, but the cloud appeared as fire at nighttime. But the cloud would lift, right, as it says, verse 23, at the commandment of the Lord, they rested in the tents, and at the commandment of the Lord, they journeyed. Oh, it doesn't say, but when God would lift the cloud, and then they knew it was time to pick up and leave. And then when he stopped the cloud, they set up the tabernacle, and then they camped. So God told them, and they followed him when it's time to leave, when it's time to go. And we'll see, I think it's in the next chapter. We read already in chapter 10, verse 11. It came to pass on the 20th day of the second month, the second year, that the cloud was taken up from off the tabernacle. So yeah, that now they're actually leaving Mount Sinai now, where they had camped in the wilderness for a year, and now they're headed to the promised land. They're going to be headed to the promised land. One other thing I wanted to point out, and it's in chapter 10, and maybe it takes a little bit more. Yeah, there's two serious things, actually. One in chapter 10, and we're going to go back to chapter 6. Chapter 10, and look at verse 2. Make thee 2 trumpets of silver. Now this is God talking to Moses from the tabernacle, from the mercy seat, and this is what he charges Moses to do. Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camp. And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. If they blow but with 1 trumpet, then the princes which are heads of the thousands shall gather themselves unto thee. When they blow an alarm. Okay, he goes on and explaining what the trumpets are used for, to organize the people, to say what's going on. Like one trumpeted is alarm, one tells us that we're moving, so that they, because of millions of people, 2 trumpets for millions of people, but they sound a trumpet so each tribe in wherever they're laid out in the camp knows when it's time for them to leave, where everybody's going is to direct all the people. Trumpets are used today, right? I don't know if they're used in battle, but they have radios now. so they don't need that. But on the boat, they had the whistle, boatswain whistle, boatswain. All right. What is it used for? Organizing. Assembling and organizing. And I know when you say trumpet, I think the cavalry, right? I don't know what the sound meant. Maybe you some of the studied word. They knew what each trumpet had a call for a certain purpose. What is the one that says "doo-doo-doo-doo"? Charge? I for whatever I think of it as a fox hunt. It's from Mary Poppins, maybe. But anyways, what is that trumpet used for? When it's a fox hunt, we found the fox, or maybe it's to start the race or whatever it is. But the point is, the trumpets were used to organize people, even in battle. What are trumpets used for today? Not so much battle. Announcement, like a king, like here's or the king's about to make a message or something like that. Should have put my phone on silent 30 minutes ago. What else are trumpets used for? Band?
Marching band.
Very good. I think when he says trumpet, I think of the long thing and more of like a bugle where you don't have keys, you have like 3 tones you can play on it. Funerals? Yeah. We don't know if they had valves on them. I don't know if they had the capability to make a valve on the trumpet. But maybe they were horns, the ram's horn type trumpets. Aren't trumpets used for worship? Well, maybe not trumpets so much. I've seen trumpet solos in church. I think that as symbolic for music. Well, yeah, he's using them in battle, but is that the only thing trumpets are used for? What were the music? Let's say trumpets are music. What was the point of it in battle? Organizing, assembling, unifying. Everybody's on the same page. We're giving an order that everybody's going to do this at the right time. All right. Now think about in church. What do we use music for in church? Well, I thought you were going to say, well, it just sounds good.
Come late so that
So they know when church is starting. Yeah. It's to prepare your heart. It's to get everybody, and that's what you're back there looking up here. I'm back there looking out there. Everybody stands together. Everybody opens their books together. Everybody's reading the same words. What are we doing? We're organizing. We're uniting. We're putting everybody on the same page together. That's what happens in battle. Not music, it's trumpets, I understand, but it's a musical sound. Go to 2 Chronicles and look at chapter 20 and look at verse 14. Now, this is Jehoshaphat. Maybe you know this. You know this story. I'm sure you do. Okay, it's chapter 20, not chapter 10. The Ammonites and the Moabites come to attack the Judah. And Jehoshaphat's the king. And he was a fairly decent king, Jehoshaphat was. But he has, in verse 14, they're all paranoid, let's say, worried about the battle to come. And look at what verse 14 says. Then upon Jehaziel, the son of Zechariah, the son of Benaiah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite. So Jehaziel, he's the prophet who speaks. He's a Levite of the sons of Asaph. Came the Spirit of the Lord in the midst of the congregation. So if he's a son of Asaph, what does that tell you about him? He's musical. All right. And then he prophesies, says that came the Spirit of the Lord in the midst of the congregation. He tells to Jehoshaphat, the people, he's like, God has spoken to me. This is what's going to happen. Verse 17, ye shall not need to fight in the battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, see the salvation of the Lord with you. Now go down to verse 21. Oh, I'm sorry, verse 20. And they rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went forth, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Judah, and ye inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall ye be established. Believe his prophet, so shall ye prosper. And when he had consulted with the people, he appointed canons. Why would he appoint singers? What is that going to do for anybody? He appointed singers unto the Lord, and that should praise the beauty of holiness as they went out before the army, and to say, Praise the Lord, for his mercy endureth forever. And when they began to sing and to praise, the Lord set ambushments against the children of Ammon, Moab, and Seir, which were come against Judah, and they were smitten. And we see, was it Gideon? Is it Gideon? It's been so long since talking about the book of Judges. I don't remember who it was. That he played trumpets, right? The lamps and the trumpets and all that. But here is the actual singers, like a choir is their weapon. Did the choir do anything? Were they physical? Did they have... They didn't have violin bows. They had real bows. No. They just sang. And praised the Lord. That is what God wanted. I don't know if that organized the people, but it certainly united them, didn't it?
Psychological.
Psychological. I know that I had a lot more to say about that, but I'm going to have to stop that part of it. But yeah, so to say that they were trumpets, yeah, they were trumpets, but again, whether it was figurative, or whether it's a picture for us of what God finds pleasing. If he finds singing in battle pleasing, he finds singing in church pleasing. When I was a kid, it seemed like music was maybe, this isn't really the church I'm only familiar with now, but when I was a kid, it's like everybody sang, everybody could read music, everybody could follow a director, and every church had a director. Now you just had, it's changed a lot, let's say. With the words up there and the hymn books are going away. I know they put the words up there so that everybody can see them and they read it together. But there's something about the music, which the words is just poetry. And you go back to chapter 6 of, where are we at? Leviticus? Numbers. Okay. There's something about the poetry and the words, but there's also something about the music that goes with it, and the combining of the sounds and the harmonies with the words. That when you have just that up there, and you have a piano playing and people just chanting, I'm not saying there's something like mystical about it, but the angels sang when they announced the coming. There's music in heaven. That doesn't mean there's chants. All I'm saying is that our hymn books have music written so people can learn how to make the sounds rather than just chant the words. All right? There's something about the music, the trumpets, with the words, not just poetry, not just reciting poetry. We don't have, just read with me, song number 30. Ba 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 ba. I don't know. Don't look up what song 30 is. It is powerful. But more than that, I think of I'm not complaining about Amy, okay? I think this has to do it probably did start when the kids were little and they all taking piano lessons. And we had 2 pianos in the house. And I just can't take it. Just stop the piano for a second, or whatever instrument it is. And it's great that Owen's back because we have it all day long again. But why is that? When I'm driving in the car going somewhere, I have to, if it's not, talk radio or a book, I have to have something going. I prefer music because I like to sing along with it, and it keeps me engaged and keeps me, but, let's say music is engaging. That's the problem. And for her, it's just overstimulation. So the music and the noise and the this and that, but also for people who are musical, it's distracting because it's drawing us to participate. And I have to focus on this, and the music is taking me, and my mind is being pulled by the music. But music does that. It engages us.
I think, like Rainy, everybody's playing something different.
Yeah.
It's confusion. And you're talking about the music unify people. So
It could be that too.
It's
Yeah.
confusion.
Churches in confusion, houses hold its confusion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's not the point of music. But on the same thing, I think of her being distracted by music, and I go out and work in the garden, and I like to take my speaker out there and put on the Bluetooth speaker and have music while I'm working in the garden. Because it helps me focus on what I'm doing. And some people, but it's that focus that draws, but that music is very special. Not just the words, but the sounds and the movements of it, the harmonies of it. Was that what you were going to say?
No, I also have music.
You can defend yourself.
My focus
is
that many hours a week, and you're putting your music in the gap.
Yeah. I supplement her kindergarten music with my music, and then Owen's opera music and my barbershop music. Go back to, what were we going to say, Numbers chapter 6. I'm going to skip the first 5 chapters, but it was pretty much giving us the divisions of the people, aligning them with their princes, with their what each of them are responsible for, counting them, all that. Chapter 6 and start at verse 23. This is the dedication. Actually, mostly this chapter is talking about the Nazirite vow. Okay, but we have concluded with verse 23. Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right. So again, this I think fits in chronologically with later in the book, because in chapter 10 it says they picked up their camp because the cloud left, and then they got everything together and they headed out. So this is probably, I like to think of it anyway, as a benediction. Then you've probably heard it many times. Given from God to Aaron and say, this is how you bless the people. And you bless them by saying what God will do for them. And it's very poetic. That's why we hear it over and over again. That's why we're talking about music is more than just poetry. It's the sounds too. But here we have something very poetic. I'm like, well, okay, I could summarize all of those verses and say, well, God blesses the people, or God is gracious. That's what it means. He's just like 5 different ways of saying it. Why did he take so many words to say it? Why did he say it in so many different ways? Did it all mean the same thing? Is each phrase mean something slightly different than the phrases before it? So it's important to look at that, and I think we probably have to start with that passage next week, even though that was the last nice thing we were going to have to say, and the next week was going to be. We'll start with a nice thing, and then we'll finish with the. Anyways, it's just more complaining is all it is. The Israelites more complaining, even though this is what God says. He will bless you, he will keep you, he'll shine his face on you. You can read it, but we're going to have to close there, ending with I will put my name on them. God's name. It comes up again. All right, let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much again for guiding us through your word. Give us understanding. Give us sensitivity to your spirit, and help us to be willing to make changes in our lives to be to live more like you. I ask in Jesus' name, amen.